she's on the right side of history, but she's just writing the right side of history poorly. She just wants, she knows casts should be diverse, so she drops in like, oh, gay guys with a kid, lesbian women of color, child with autism. And the thing is, because she's just dropping them in without any real ability to understand them or write them in a nuanced way, it comes off as extremely surface level. Like, it can just be scraped away, and it doesn't matter because it didn't matter to put it in to begin with. It's not really key to who they are. It's great that the author wants to be inclusive. I think it's good when books are diverse. I think it's good when they're inclusive. Valerie has a different opinion. She's more on the American Eagle, Sydney Sweeney kind of thing, if you know what I mean. She kind of wants to keep a certain amount of hegemony involved in her, you know what I mean? She's already on.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Unresolved Sexual Tension. It's me, your host, Valerie, and with me today is some guy found on the internet, Will.
Who's rugged and handsome. Hey guys, we are doing another, I'm sorry for that squeaking. I just had to move my microphone like a professional podcaster. This is the Joe Rogan experience for women who read romantasy. Okay, so they've been looking for the liberal Joe Rogan. We're here. You're welcome. Today, the book we're doing is The Witch's Guide to Magical Income Innkeeping by Sangu Mandanna, I think?
Yes.
Mandani? I can't remember quite which.
Mandana.
Right. And we had previously read her book what was
The Very
called?
Secret Society of Irregular Witches.
I thought it was called like A Storm of Witches or something. And that book, the reason that we read it is that when me and Val originally became friends, she was like, I read this book and I absolutely hate it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then she kept saying that for like a good 6 months. And eventually was like, can we please do it on the podcast? And I was like, no. And she was like, but maybe. And I was like, okay. So we read that one. And that was not a good book. That book had a lot of flaws. It was not the worst book we've read, but it was kind of... It was very weak, and it very much felt like the author wasn't super talented. This time around, I think she's improved somewhat, but there are still some very real weaknesses to this book.
In a lot of ways, I think this one is better. Like, just the things that enraged me about Irregular Witches, a lot of them were sort of sanded off in this one. One of my biggest complaints was the overzealous descriptions of every single character. Not so in this book. We don't get, like, a laundry list of traits for every side character, which is fantastic. The humor is still, like, it grates on me a little bit, but way, way better than the last one. There are still a couple of times where the whole room, not the whole room, just someone laughs a little too much at a joke, you know? Like, someone says something kind of funny, and, like, they're like, and I laughed for, like, 5 minutes, and I'm like, all right, okay, whatever. It's cute, it's quirky. But, like, because I wasn't as angry reading this one as I was reading the previous book, I was just kind of more bored. Like, I didn't have that raw rage to fuel me.
I know what you mean. I had a much more analytical view of like, oh, this is not good for these and these. Like, it's not the worst, but by virtue of not being particularly competent, it made me realize how incompetent it was. Before we go further, the synopsis to this book is that it's Britain. This is Harry Potter rules. There are secret witches and wizards, which everyone just calls witches. And the main character, Sarah
Swan.
Sarah Swan, who is not an orphan, very specifically.
No, the world building is different.
Clearly, this was changed at the last minute because she still thinks exactly like one. Like, there's no thoughts throughout the book besides her introduction that make it seem like, oh, my parents are off doing something else. She's very clearly...
never become relevant. They're just like, and my parents have been off on an adventure since I was 2, and I see them, like, maybe once a year, and I'm like, why not just be an orphan at this point?
It's weird. Like, the relationship between an orphan and a child who had their parents abandon them emotionally is just very different, and the author doesn't treat it that way. But anyway, she was tested when she was young, and she was found to be super, super powerful magic, top 2 magic users. She's
one of the best that ever was. Her and an old racist guy named Albert are the best witches in the whole world.
And you're like, that's weird. How do you know that already? At 15, she is already just lecturing us, the reader, about how old and racist and terrible he is.
It's crazy that like she just knows she can tell. Like a kid usually would be gaslit a little bit more than she was. She was just immediately like, I could tell that this guy doesn't actually like me because he's jealous of my powers and he wants to be the best of all time because he's old and white and evil.
The book is like that. It's a choice. It's a choice. But she grew up with her aunt Jasmine at this inn that she kept like putting all her magic into to fix. But what happened is Jasmine died, and we don't know how. And we never will figure out how
Jasmine died. She just keeled over in the garden, and so we start the book with Sarah at 15 years old. We'll quickly fast forward, but we start here, and she finds her great aunt Jasmine dead in the garden, and she's like, shit. And then this little fox comes up. Her name's Clemmy. Clemmy used to be a witch, but now she's a fox due to a curse that backfired on her.
Yes.
And Clemmy is like, you should revive her. Actually, you should revive her right now. Sarah, very, very good at magic, is like, but that's illegal. The Guild of Sorcerers is going to get mad at me if I revive her. And Clemmy's like, well, you got to do it. Who's going to take care of you? You're 15. I'm not going to take care of you. And she's like, well, shit. Okay. So she, because she's the best that ever was, puts all her magic to revive her great aunt. Her great aunt sits up and is like, oh, hey. And she's like, you died. And she's like, well, it was very smart of you to revive me. And like, I'm not really exaggerating. That's pretty much exactly what she says.
It's exactly like that. She's like, oh, that is very good. I'm going to try not to do an accent. She has an Indian accent. Also, though, she also, by accident, some of her necromancy leached in, and the old chicken, who's now just bones, is also resurrected as well. I forget what the name.
So we've got a bone rooster hanging around. For our quirky cast of characters. How fun for us.
She almost immediately racist old guy shows up and is like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, you're out of the coven. But before that,
first what happens is her friend comes up, her best friend Francesca, I think is what her name is. She calls and is like, hey, and Francesca is Albert, the strongest guy ever's daughter. Francesca is like, hey, I'm really excited you get to come skiing with my family. And Sarah is immediately like, he only wants me there so he can manipulate me for my magic. Francesca shows up at her door and she's like, hey, bestie. And Sarah's just like, oh, boy, I gotta tell someone about this. And she tells Francesca, don't tell anyone, but I revived my great aunt. And Francesca immediately goes and calls her dad, and it's like, Daddy, my best friend did legal magic. And Albert is like, you're excommunicated from the Sorcerers Guild. You can't use our libraries, do anything. You have to stay here, mind your own business, get away from me.
Yeah, she's like, oh, she could see how happy he was that he was no longer, maybe there was a number two as powerful as him. And you're like, and then there's this wonderful line that goes like, but she was from a people who hadn't give up and were for resisting. And I'm like, really? Are we mentioning that in relation to you being 15? This is such a pretentious thing to talk about in regards to a book like this. Anyway, but the other thing that's happening independently of this is that she has lost touch with her magic. Her magic broke.
As soon as she used this spell, she describes her magic as like vast skies of stars, a bunch of constellations. And after she did the spell, she only has a few constellations left, and it's really sad. She's like, it'll come back, right? And Clemmy the fox is like, I sure hope so, because this whole time I was only helping you so that you could break my curse, and I need you to use your magic to break my curse. And Sarah's like, you were using me? And she's like, but anyway, like,
and then
we should say that, like, it's established right away that this Guild of Sorcery is very, very racist. Anyone who's not from Britain is treated like a foreigner. Her mom, Sarah's mother, is from Iceland. Her dad is from India. both of them equally outsiders. They want nothing to do with non-British people at all.
Also, Scottish people don't count. We'll talk about that in a minute. This book, if you thought all this sounded kind of interesting, go read the Deadly Education books by Naomi Novik. They're 1,000 times better than this in both humor, characters, emotional involvement, themes, ability to write competently. This book is riffing on a lot of the same themes and doing so much worse. It's like if you go into a skate park and your child sibling was going next to you and just was grating their face against the concrete the whole time. I've never been to a skate park. I'm not. Cool. So going back to the overall picture a little, that is how I felt about this. It kept reminding me of other books that were better. The Deadly Education books handled the themes better. This felt very much like a Diana Wynne Jones book, which a lot of people who are listening to this don't know about because you're all heathens with low reading comprehension. But she had a similar kind of low stakes, cozy, interpersonal, while at the same time being kind of funny vibe to her books that she just did so much better. She wrote Howl's Moving Castle for you anime nerds. That works so much better than this one. And what's interesting is that in a lot of ways, Diana Wynne Jones wrote YA, and so there is a kind of YA simplicity to this, but I think it's like that you would normally excuse because it's written for children, but this isn't written clearly for children. This is clearly written for adults. They drop the F word a few times. There's a sex scene, and like it's just not for children. And I think what it is actually that simplicity comes from the fact that reading comprehension in the US has plummeted in the last 20 years. A lot of people can't get past like a 5th grade reading comprehension test. And so I think this book is meant to service that populace. Okay, what's your opinion?
It reads so young. It reads like a middle grade book, but like for like a low reading level middle grade book. But again, yeah, like you said, there's a sex scene and like it has this sort of like tongue-in-cheek sort of like Monty Python-esque British humor sensibility about it, but like that through the lens of like Dora the Explorer level like reading comprehension.
Yeah.
And it's just like the vibes are strange, and it's clearly meant to be an adult book because we're dealing mostly with adult characters who are dealing with hypothetically like adult themes, even though again it's all through this very simplified, very like dumbed down lens. And I don't really understand who this book is for. The coziness isn't even like satisfying. Like there's potential in like the coziness of this cozy little inn and this cast of characters, but she does it so poorly. And we don't get a lot of information on the people who live at the inn until like more than halfway through the book. She'll just randomly drop a fact about a character. And I'm like, boy, it sure would have been nice to know this like at the beginning when I was getting to know them as a character. So they felt more fleshed out. It's like halfway through, you're just like, oh, and by the way, she's a lesbian and she's been in love with this other character for a long time. And like, where did this come from? Why didn't you mention this before?
Before now. There is, again, I think the reason you and I are a little befuddled about who this is for is because this is for a new demographic that didn't exist when we were coming up, It's for the illiterate American who has very low reading comprehension and is an adult and wants to read spicy books, but isn't really smart enough to be able to understand more complex books. And we're probably not far enough into
the romance is not good.
Okay, I will say I'm being a little. No, that is actually what I think. But the author does do some things better, and I did like this more than the other one in certain respects. Like she wants to do wacky characters. I found this cast of characters less annoying than the last one, which is not to say I found them funny or interesting. And then there were one or two that I thought actually were legitimately quite funny and charming. They're just not on screen a lot. I found the old tough professor who chews on a pipe a lot. I thought she was funny.
Yeah, I thought she was cool.
I thought Clem, when we were leaning into I'm a middle-aged bitchy witch who got turned into a fox. I thought that was funny when that happened, but a lot of times she gets treated more as like the fox is talking isn't that funny.
Yeah, she's like, kind of a prop for a lot of it. There's some potential in some of the characters. Some of them felt like they didn't even need to be there. Like
God, so many of them. And so much of the book is like, found family. And I'm like, okay, that's nice.
I also I
guess it's nice you guys all don't have the same last name.
I kind of want to talk about the autism rep in this eventually too. I had some real issues with it, and I think the author was really trying to do a good job, and I don't think that any of it wasn't explicitly harmful or anything. It's just because all of the characters are so flat and underdeveloped that it seems like really bad autism rep because she's just most characters are treated like a prop, and she is too. And it hits worse because of her autism and how they're often treated, like, you know.
It kind of deltas with other bad representations of it. Her lack of skill and ability to write deltas with nuanced portrayals. I think what it is that, and, you know, I talked about this a little in Some Desperate Glory. It's great that the author wants to be inclusive. I think it's good when books are diverse. I think it's good when they're inclusive. Valerie has a different opinion. She's more on the American Eagle, Sydney Sweeney kind of thing, if you know what I mean. She kind of wants to keep a certain amount of hegemony involved in her, you know what I mean? She's already on. But if we ignore her for a minute here, no, I think that's all great. I think the problem is that she's on the right side of history, but she's just writing the right side of history poorly. She just wants, she knows casts should be diverse, so she drops in like, oh, gay guys with a kid, lesbian women of color, child with autism. And the thing is, because she's just dropping them in without any real ability to understand them or write them in a nuanced way, it comes off as extremely surface level. Like, it can just be scraped away, and it doesn't matter because it didn't matter to put it in to begin with. It's not really key to who they are.
Exactly. And like what I said a similar thing with Irregular Witches. I really think this author is trying to do a good thing. And she's spoken about, wanting to see herself included in things.
That's what Val says when we're in public.
Oh my God, shut up. I think some of the strongest parts are when she's talking about like her Indian main character's view on things, because clearly it comes from a very personal place. It's stronger than the other ones. Okay, I'm trying to give her credit.
Okay, all right, okay.
There are a couple moments
like, this whole time I'm like, no, but all right, better.
I'm trying to give her credit where credit's due. But again, like, it feels very much like you're trying to teach a third grader the concept of like racism and like, oh, men can be married. Look, kind of. And like a third grader is like, oh, okay, other people are different than me. And like that's kind of the extent of it.
And the thing is, for a third grader, that does have value. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is kind of like...
book.
And the other thing is, even for a child, like me and Katie were looking over The Giver in our Patreon plug that we'll talk about in a moment. And like that book it feels simplistic and for children, but is actually hiding a huge amount of depth in terms of how it discusses ideas of fascism and monoculture versus diverse, like that kind of a whole thing, conformity versus individualism. Like, you do not have to write down for kids, but apparently you have to write down to people who read romantasy. This is technically, I don't think is romantasy.
Yeah, I really wish this author would like stick to like writing for younger people, because I think she could do it really well. There is a sort of charm in her prose. Sometimes it's just not like...
She's not very funny. She's like
she's
one of
not
those
very
people, she's one of those people that like unfunny people think are funny because they themselves aren't funny. It's kind of that feeling of like, well, if someone's wacky, that must be funny. And you're like, is it? Like
you said in the Irregular Witches review, I think like when a bunch of people laugh at like something someone said, you're just like, it's not even that funny. You just said something a little unserious, I believe.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's what it is.
And the book just has such an air of masturbatoriness about it in terms of wish fulfillment, which I understand that some people will enjoy because they will hook onto her characters. And if you're hooked onto her characters, it's very like, oh, everybody's warm, everybody's nakama, everybody thinks the main character is great. Like that kind of a thing. It feels very fan fiction-y, honestly, in that sense. But the problem is that this isn't fan fiction. You need to sell me on these characters. I'm not just going to accept that your favorite people are the best ever. And like, and going back to the like, and everybody laughed thing, they didn't laugh. You made them laugh. You're the writer. You wanted this person to be great, so you made them. You strung the string so the evil guy is evil and the good people are funny. Like. There's no verisimilitude to.
And yeah, like a good book, you'll like read a character say something and it'll be like, oh, I can see why this character would make this joke. This is within like the confines of their personality trait. And now I think it's funny because I understand their character and why they would say this and why other people would find them funny. With this, it's just like she thought of like a quirky thing to say and she makes the next person in line say it. Like that's like
exactly what it is. But before we get to that, don't mind that the lighting has changed from where you just were half a second ago in the video. Val, do we have a Patreon?
We sure do have a Patreon, Will, and some of the levels have recently changed, so I'm going to make you do it.
That's true. I was just talking about the book, so I'm not recording this later and putting it in here, so I'll have to think for a second. But we've got new levels and new rewards. So at the base level, we now have a Discord level, where if you just want to check out the community, you can go in there. You can do that. It's $2. It's very cheap. Where it's part of, there's lots of cool, sexy people. The next one up is the official patron tier, and that one you get Discord access, but you also are going to get access to Kaedy's Fiction Corner, which she does like once a month or so. It's as she puts it, ye old writing class. It's writing is submitted. Everybody looks and talks about it. I'm not there because it's too much work. Then we're going to be doing something new. We're going to be doing a monthly Q&A where you guys get to post questions and we'll answer them in a live stream. And that's going to be exclusive to Patreon. If nobody can think of any cool questions, I'll go over comments like the comment response videos we've done. But if you've always wanted to ask us weird questions, this is the time. We'll be on screen. We might have to answer them. It'll probably be me, and then I'll probably bring along one of the girls. We'll see. And then above that, we have the book club tier. The book club tier is now combined with the critique tier, so it's the same price as the book club tier was before. But now you're going to get access to all of our critique streams. I don't know if we've done it yet in the video or if we'll do it in a minute, but we go over the prose a little bit in this, and that's what me and Katie do for an hour every week or every month. Go over the prose, look at how you could strengthen them, look at how you tell the story. We already have, I think, 22. So if you become a book club member, you just get access to that entire back catalog and playlist. Good value. The Parasocial Legend or Parasocial Darlings tier is now just for your name in the credits. And if you want to be even cooler than that, you can join the Parasocial Legends tier. And that is just for people who really want to support the channel. We really appreciate it. We are going to give you a shout out now. So far, we already have 3. We have Pi, shout out. We have Stephen Alworth. Let's pretend I didn't say that. What's up? And we have Jennifer, who actually has been one of our oldest patrons. I think.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Discord or something. Yeah, so we recognize you all. So thank you for considering our Patreon and supporting independent journalism and getting those cool rewards. Now seamlessly back to the video. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the plot a little bit. Like we said, her parents, Sarah's parents, one of them was Indian and one of them was Icelandic, and they left her basically as a
2-year-old.
As a 2-year-old with her aunt. And the thing is that, again, going back to what I was just saying before we started on this whole thing, being abandoned emotionally by your parents with a relative is not the same as not, or having them had died or released you and not having any contact. It's different. The character should think about, the few times they do Skype or the few times that they have wanted their parents to be close or even had a few memories of their parents being warm with them. None of that happens throughout the book. It literally is just she's an orphan, but I can't reuse that because I did that in the last book and my editor told me to change it at the end after I'd written it all.
It's weird. The main character from the last book has more abandonment issues than the character in this book. She has no abandonment issues whatsoever about her parents having just been actually, we don't want to be parents. We want to go explore for the rest of our lives. See ya. And she's just fine. She's well, I guess Jasmine's my mom now. Cool. And it's just never going to come up. Her parents are never characters. They're never on page. They're mentioned a couple of times, and that's it.
It's true. It's something that we're not going to talk about much more as we go but it just should be noted how weird and incongruous it is. The thing that one of the other things I want to note is that the voice actress pulls a lot of weight in this book because there are characters that are a little bit funny because of how the voice actress voices them and is good at it, that on the page will be even flatter.
Again, her friend, I eyeball read this, so I didn't get any of that charm.
So when her friend Francesca shows up, she's described as talking nonstop, and the voice actress does it that way. She goes, and I was oh, that's cute. And then I was but that's not in the book. I don't.
There are some books where The Witcher, which we just read, the Sword of Destiny, where the voice actor does a lot of work and he's incredible. But reading it on page doesn't take away from it because the prose is really good and it's described well enough that you don't need the voice actor to do all the heavy lifting. But in this case, you absolutely do because the prose is flat and it's uninteresting. And there were so many moments, just a very brief side note, where I'd be reading and we'd suddenly be in a different scene without a page break. And I had to go back and read it again. And I'm oh no, it's just and then they stop talking. the next day they were eating dinner, and I'm like, this is just written poorly. The transitions here are bad.
Yeah,
like,
I could sense that a little bit. I wasn't too bothered by it, I don't think. You're right. She's lost her magic, and then there's a 15-year time jump. Bam. And we go to the inn now, and she has just been hanging out in the inn this whole time. And she okay, this is the other thing. We're going to keep being told she's grumpy, but that she's also not grumpy. And
it was so confusing for me.
The author wanted to have it both ways. She wanted to have the grumpy sunshine romance at times, and at other times she wanted it to be a situation where she's grumpy outwardly, but inwardly she's kind of sweet to everybody. And it kind of goes back and forth in a way that doesn't work great, partly because we're in her perspective, so we don't really see that.
Yeah, and she clearly loves everyone, even if she's a little sarcastic sometimes. That's kind of the extent of her grumpiness. She's a little sarcastic. So she's living in this inn. There's a cast of characters. Let's introduce them. So we have Sarah, who runs the inn. The magic in the inn is still kind of working from her enchantments previously, and she's able to upkeep the inn with its magic. It's a little bit wonky sometimes. There are ghosts of her childhood self that randomly show up throughout the house. One of the rooms rains tea on Sundays or something.
So wacky.
There's just a few quirks about it.
So funny.
You can tell that the author really wanted sort of the inn to be a character of itself, but it doesn't quite come through.
You know what? That does feel like a very Diana Wynne Jones kind of whimsy, where the inn has a life of its own and is kind of doing its own thing. But no, I totally didn't notice that is even what she was trying to do, because it's just a house.
I only brought it up because it's in the thought review questions that she added at the end of the book. She's like, do you think that the inn is kind of a character in and of itself? And I'm like, oh, so you were trying to do that. Okay.
Tell them about that, because we haven't mentioned that.
Oh yeah, so there's 10 reading comprehension questions at the end of the book, and they're all just I'll read them to you later, but it's
but
just
again, who's this for? Is this for classrooms?
It feels like it's for 5th graders, but then there's a sex scene. It's a very faded black sex scene, but it's still there.
There's description of things going out and minds going.
There sure are. There sure are. Anyway, the cast of characters. So the people who live here are Sarah and Jasmine, her great aunt, who is still alive. We never ask questions about how she died. It never comes up. It's never an issue. No health issues, so to speak of. And it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
Literally the whole time I was like, yeah, how did she die randomly? And then it's not like she had a heart condition that they then had to take care of. It's just she killed over and died, and then she's okay now for another 20 years.
And then she wakes up and I cannot express to you how blasé it is. She's like, oh, smart of you to revive me. You probably can't take care of yourself on your own. And she's like, I guess I died. Guess I'm alive now. Let's go back to living. I'm like, weird.
Anyway, but the other people, and Jasmine was originally from India, but her family, we find out, didn't love her because she has club feet.
She has a club foot, yes.
Yeah, which we'll get to it. This book really wants to do the Nakama outcasts, kind of everybody can be them. That was a great expression I can use for the thumbnail, guys, if you missed it, audio listeners.
Oh no.
What timestamp is this? 27.
Don't look at it.
2716. All right, go ahead.
So, and then we have an older black lady. Her name is Matilda. She really likes gardening, and she's planting all these, crops in the backyard that are out of season. And Sarah is a sweetheart, so she makes sure they grow even though they're out of season. It's all very sweet. And then we have Theo, or is it Theo? Is it Theo?
I think it's Theo.
Yes, Theo is Sarah's little cousin. His family is in Iceland, and he is a witch also. His family was kind of weirded out by the whole witch thing, and just sort of sent him off. So he's living here now, full time.
There's also the night guy, Nick.
Oh yeah, Nicholas, who's he works at the local Ren fair, and straight up acts like he believes he's a knight. He just wears full armor all the time.
He's like one of those stock characters you used to get in movies when directors were like, Ren people are all weird. And so they're way overdo it. But he's played that way straight. And you're like, okay.
Of all the cast of characters, he feels the most sort of shoehorned in he doesn't really play that much of an important role in the plot at any point. He's just sort of there to be quirky, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He's not funny. I don't like him. Again, part of the problem is that like we couldn't rank how unfunny each of these characters are, but again, I only actually found 2 of them funny. And then there's also no, I think that's it.
Well, there's Clemmy. The fox still lives here, and she's still a fox because Sarah's magic isn't strong enough to, reverse the curse.
Right, and then there's like a gay couple who lives nearby.
Yeah, and one of them is also brown, so Sarah has sort of like a camaraderie with him.
Soul gay, and they just look at each other and they just know through their brown powers what's up. The other thing to note here is she's doing fine. The book will like act like she's not, but she's doing fine here. She's a little bit like, oh no, my powers are gone. I'm no longer that person. And it's like, man, because this whole time she's been trying to find a spell that would help, but eventually she gave up because she doesn't have access to like the books that she would need. But Theo is a witch, and his family couldn't handle him. Metaphor for neuroatypicality in children. And so they shipped him off to live with her, but he is online schooling, going to wizard school, and through his
online
library account. Yeah, through his online portal, she figured out which books she needs, but he can't get it to figure out how to break her curse and get her magic again.
Yeah, it's called what's the fucking book called? It is called The Ninth Compendium of Uncommon Spells.
I will say this is a better setup than the first book in terms of like there's a clearer conflict and a clearer like, okay, this is what we're going to be trying to do throughout the book. And it also is a little bit more, I felt like right off the bat was a little bit more of tied me to the character a little bit more, though it doesn't tie you a lot. The book, because she's kind of fine to begin with, it's hard to feel like this is much of a problem.
Yeah, she's very happy having the tiny bit of magic that she has, even though she clearly misses it. Like if this was a musical or her I Want song is kind of weak, just like because like she already has like sort of this family, Yeah. It's more that like everyone around her is like singing the I Want song for her and like keeps stumbling into trouble, which leads us into the next thing that happens. Clemmy, our little trickster fox lady, secretly talks to Theo, and she's like, we don't see this, we learn about this later, but she's like, hey, we should go break into the library and steal that book for Sarah. And Sarah, back at the inn is like, has anyone seen Cleo? Or not Cleo, Theo? I combined Clemmy and Theo. And they're like, oh, that's weird. And then he comes back randomly after like school one day or something, and he's like, I did something, and she's like, what? And then there's a knock on the door, and Francesca shows up. She has not seen Francesca in 15 years, and now she is the like chancellor of the Sorcerers Guild or whatever. And she's like, you know what you did, girl? And Sarah's like, huh? What did I do? And then Clemmy and Theo are like, hee. And she's like, what did you do? And then I'm gonna make tea. So she talks to him, and they're like, look, we got you the book. And then she's like, oh shit, Theo's gonna get in trouble. He's gonna get kicked out of the Magic Guild just like I did. I have to cover for him. So she takes the book back out to Francesca, and she's like, here, it's yours. I didn't do this. I did do it. Don't get them in trouble. And she's like, you're just giving this back to me. And then she like kind of flips through it, and you get the sense that like there's something kind of going on with Francesca a little bit. And she's like, well, this is the spell you're looking for, right? And she's like, why are you showing me that? She's like, here, why don't you take some pictures of it? There's some stuff going back at the guild. And she's like, you let me do that? Why? And we kind of get the sense that Albert has been pulling a lot of strings, and people are irritated with him. And he was one of the only reasons why she was ostracized from the whole magic community. He just wanted her gone, and everyone else is like, she was just a kid, like. But plot twist, the spell is in a completely different language, and she can't read it. What's she gonna
do? And so one thing we should mention is that Francesca was originally described as very ditzy, and then when she comes back, she's all steel and cool because her father is still really the one drawing the strings now. She's been beaten down.
Oh, and you learn that she has like two like twin boys, I think, and then Sarah asks about them, and she's like, not that neither of them are magic, and you can tell that Albert was just so pissed that his grandsons weren't magical, like, because he's the worst man in the world.
God, okay, so one thing we should talk about is that as a 15-year-old, Sarah already knew that Albert was the worst and was terrible and just wanted her for her power and was insecure about it. And the problem is that this is not just a stupid thing that she shouldn't not only is it somewhat unrealistic, it also is narratively weak. It's a much more interesting arc to have her go through this parental figure she kind of thought she loved and would protect her and won't and doesn't, and for her to uncover this throughout the book or even just in the timeline.
And it would have made so much more sense because her parents abandoned her that she would seek sort of a father figure. And it said sort of half-assedly at the beginning that she was trying to find a father figure in him, but like
mentioned once,
she just realized immediately that he was a bad dude who didn't really like her and wanted her to fail. And
we don't even get like descriptions for when she realized it. She seems to have known it right from the beginning. And to be honest, there's a more interesting conflict here where it could have been like, you know, she's come to appreciate Jasmine more over time as her mother, but at the time, or her surrogate parent, but at the time she was enamored of the magic and the power, and she didn't really want her dotty old aunt as her. You know what I mean? Like there could be a certain amount to which this is a morality tale of like, she then has to come back and appreciate those people who do domestic labor instead of the cool, glamorous magic labor.
It would have given her a way more interesting character arc, but like we said, like she's kind of happy with her life from the beginning, so she doesn't really go through an interesting character arc through this thing at all.
That's what reminded me a lot of Diana Wynne Jones, because Diana Wynne Jones is very fond of her characters, you can tell, but she doesn't think they're perfect, and she isn't fulfilling her emotional needs through writing these characters in a way that I think a lot of romantasy authors do, and specifically I think this book does. This book can't have her be flawed and then grow, because this is the author's, you know, this is their emotional thing that they hand their emotional security blanket. And so she has to have known from the beginning that he was bad. And she can't really go through too much of a growth arc.
God, you're right, Will. Like it would have been so much interesting if she was enamored with like the glamour of the like guild group, like sorcery or whatever, and like had to like unlearn that a little bit. And even like there's a part later where she goes back and she's like, because she was way younger than all of the students at like the Guild of Sorcery, she's like, I wonder what everyone thought of me. Did they think I was just like Albert? Did they think I was better than everyone? And it would have been so much more interesting if she did kind of think she was better than everyone.
I mean, you wouldn't understand this because it's about non-white people, so you also wouldn't really want to care about. I don't know why I started this bit.
But so rude.
That's even like a good metaphor for the way that, you know, immigrant communities are often made to devalue themselves and be like, oh, no. Those are the dirty immigrants. My parents don't speak English. I want to be part of the cool white people group. And then realizing that like, oh, they never valued me to begin with. And my cultural ways are cool in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can I write racial themes much better than the author? Yes. Yes. But really, like it's so weird not to have just the reason you can't have this growth, which would be great. I'm sorry, there's so much light on my face, guys. We have to record these later because one of us doesn't care about good lighting on the podcast.
One of us lives in California.
But the reason you are denied this arc that would make the book better is because the author emotionally can't handle her character starting in a flawed place. And I really do think it's that simple. I don't even think it's like, I think that it's just from the moment one, that was a non-starter for the author to have her character like not immediately recognize oppression. And that's part of the problem with just putting like oppression and diversity on the top level, is you're not actually really able to engage with it meaningfully and have it enrich your book. It's just kind of,
yeah,
you know,
there's
it's
a
just
real
the colors
issue
of the M&Ms. It doesn't matter.
There's an issue in Irregular Witches and in this one that all of the good characters are automatically good and all the bad characters are automatically bad. And there's a couple of like people who are maybe like a gray, but hardly, and they'll switch on the drop of a hat. Like, like all you have to do is like explain, hey, we're the good guys. They're like, oh, you're the good guys? Okay, I'll help. And like, there's just, that's it. That's all the complexity of it.
It's really true. It's very funny. Okay, so moving forward, then we cut to our secondary main character, who is
this is Luke Larson. We got two alliterative names, guys. Mika movie from the last one.
Maybe like last time, it was kind of a grumpy Irish guy. She's not going to do that again, and she doesn't. He's a totally different character. He's a grumpy Scottish guy.
He's an icy Scottish guy.
I can't necessarily say this for sure because you can never really know what's in someone's heart. But I feel like the author was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be diverse, but I don't want to write about a brown guy. What if I could find a sexy white man who's a little bit non-white coded? Irish. And then she was like, oh, shit.
Oh, I already did that.
Scottish. Yeah, tell me it doesn't feel like that.
No, it absolutely is. And like, it explicitly like says at one point, when Luke is dealing with the guild or whatever.
Yeah, it's explicitly mentioned that he's like considered not a real. He's
not that it should make any difference, but we're Scottish, Luke said coldly when he was like, no foreigners. And then Bertram Mogg is like, exactly, you're Scottish. He's the guild sucks one.
Luke settled Posey in an armchair with her tablet, her fluffy headphones, and a biscuit off Howard's tray. Biscuit, for people who are normal, is actually a cracker. Howard poured tea into 3 cups and said, you take yours black, don't you? As my heart, said Luke. Howard slapped his knee and laughed way more than the joke deserved. I was just asking Professor Walter if she's planning to attend Bradford Bertram's Mosque's Winter Masquerade this year.
That was the joke one. The one above that was the...
oh, you're right. I read the wrong one. Okay. This, said Bertram Mogg, materializing beside Luke with the air of a horseman of the apocalypse and scowling up at Posey, who was nimbly pirouetting on the very edge of a balcony in her quest to reach a particular leaf on a vine. It's what comes of allowing foreigners into the guild. Not that should make any difference, but we're Scottish, Luke said coldly. Exactly, said Bertram. So, yeah, white, but not actually white.
Explicitly stated that they hate everyone who's not in the UK. Like, they don't like people from Iceland. Like, it's...
Yeah, it's, again, if you want a better example of this, and we'll talk about it later, just read Naomi Novik. She's better at writing than everyone else. This, for example, though, is already, you can kind of see how some of this has the shape of something that should be funny, but isn't quite. So, like, this quote here, very specifically, not that it should make any difference. I can't highlight because Val didn't like me enough to give me edit access.
Sorry.
But we're Scottish, Luke said coldly. Oh, that's probably why. I'll cut that part in editing. This should be, not that it should make any difference, Luke said coldly, but we're Scottish. See how that
gets so much better. Just the prose.
That's what I'm saying. There's little things here and there that just she's not super talented. That pause and the end on the kind of punctuation mark helps a lot. And so like Bertram Mogg materializing beside Luke with the air of a horseman of the apocalypse and scowling up at Posey, who's nimbly pirouetting on the very edge of a balcony or quest to reach a particular. So there's a lot of like whimsical language that is here that isn't actually that funny. Like the idea of like he shows up as the horseman of the apocalypse, you need to do more work than just say that. An author who does this really well is Maggie Stiefvater, who we looked at the first chapter of one of their characters in Scorpio Races, where like there's an air of like taking very seriously something that's not serious and putting a little bit of air on it, and it's really quite funny. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't compare the two. But like this is a lot of this book is it's light, but it doesn't actually hit. So it's not actually a funny line that he's a horseman of the apocalypse. You just understand that this is supposed to be funny. Like, but it's not fun. Nobody laughed at that. Nobody was like, haha. It was just like, okay, well that happened.
This book is just a lot of things that are like, she's quirky writing that isn't funny, and it's not interesting or clear in what it's trying to do a lot of the time either. It's just a mess. Like so it would be funny if it was like materializing beside Luke with the aggrieved air of a horseman of the apocalypse watching God's most unfavorite, or like God's favorite child or something. Like do a little bit more with it to make it funny. It can't just be that he's showing up like that. So it's one of the ways that the book feels like it. Like you're not quite sure why it isn't vivid because it feels like it should be, but it is. Oh my God, what is going on with the light? Do you have blinds? Like, can you?
Yes, but the problem is I put up like these gauzy ones to refract the light, which is fine in the morning, but right now we're just gonna have to deal with it.
I'll try not to laugh.
I'm hiding out in the one shadow, and so that's a lot of the writing. A lot of the writing is like that, and also yes, I think she just picked him because he's ethnic but white. And he works for the professor who like tried to, apparently she just found out 15 years later, tried to help her not be cursed, but Albert, being terrible, was like, haha, I'm going to magically ensorcel you so you can't help her. And you immediately understand through inference is the one, she let Clem in and like let her steal the book. And, she wants to help her, but she can't, kind of a bullshitty spell. And she's talking to Luke and she's like, you should go on break. And he's like, what? She goes, go to my country house. And he's like, and what?
Another reason why she's sending him on break is like, he has an autistic little sister, guys. He's got an autistic 9-year-old sister named Posey, and the guild doesn't like her either because she's different. And she's always abnormal and acting strange, and she has quirks. And Luke is always having to apologize and explain for her. And he's like, she's not, she just thinks a little differently than everyone, guys, which is, true of autistic people. But it's never really illustrated to us in an interesting way. So all we get is that she kind of speaks in like 1 to 2 word, like noun phrases. And she really likes leaves and like she eats them sometimes.
So
and,
there's a problem going on here that her function in the book is to be, and I want to say immediately, I think this does it better than other books. We just recently read The Listeners by, again, Maggie Stiefvater. Yeah, not as good a book because apparently she's a great writer, but not all the time. Where the autistic character, like, even though we're in her perspective, she's so much more of like a football that just gets passed from characters to characters. Mm-hmm. Like in terms of the plot, she really only exists for plot reasons. And like, it was more offensive, I found, because the character it literally just could be replaced with like a nuclear football and it would be the same plot. In this case, it's a little bit different, but in this case, it's kind of the same. It's similar because in this case, it's like her role in the plot is to be a burden that he can't like settle down or find a place for her. She causes problems for him, right? Mm-hmm. That's her role. And there's an extent to which it's like, okay, that's interesting. That is something that as a parent or a guardian of an autistic person, that's something you're going to struggle with. But it's also undercut by the fact that she's just like an egg muffin. I don't know what the term is. She's just like a little muffin of a character.
Like a ragamuffin? Is that what are you trying to say?
No, there's some term, like I don't know. There's some literary term. But anyway, she's just like the cutest little cute who was ever cuted, and like her not being able to control herself and her magic is immediately treated like, well, if she lets the muggles know, we'll deal with it when we're on the way because we're progressive. And it's like, well, what? And then the other thing is she doesn't ever she never has like tantrums that even a normal child would have. So it just feels like it's bigotry against them, which yes, there is, but it never feels like it really has teeth as a conflict of like, he's having to actually work for this. And it doesn't engage with the realities of how autistic people have difficulty in I have no idea what the term for normal people is. That's not normal.
Neurodivergent? Neurotypical.
That's the word. Yes. Neurotypical spaces. It doesn't want to engage with it besides they should be more.
And of course, the found family is immediately kind to her. But you're forgetting her main narrative purpose, which is so we, the reader, know that the love interest is a really sweet guy who loves his autistic sister, you guys. He's real sweet and he loves his sister. That's why she's here.
Again, it's a little fetishizing of Scottish and Irish men that it's like, it's just, oh no, he loves his sister. It's like, okay, I understand this is Gerard Butler, but
this author has tropes that she likes and she's not straying from them. Or like Jamie in the last one. It's like, oh, it's so sweet that he's a surrogate father figure to these 3 little witches. And now we've got, isn't it sweet that he loves his little autistic sister and he's like, takes care of her like a dad. She just loves her dad-coded white men with accents.
She does. It's really funny. And like, again, it's one of these things where because it's not engaging with the reality of it, it just feels, it's kind of what you said earlier. Again, her lack of ability to write complex things deltas with people writing autistic characters in kind of bigoted in ways and misunderstandings of them from the outside, and the two just kind of delta together to create something that's a little I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to say problematic, but like I think it
felt problematic to me when I was reading it. I felt like she was very much treated like a prop by the narrative. And she doesn't really have any a character moment where the way she thinks differently comes into play and changes the plot in a meaningful way. She almost does, but like it doesn't really mean anything. Anyone could have figured it out. Like she actually doesn't even. Yeah, she actually doesn't even have a moment of agency in the way that Theo, the cousin of Sarah, has, where he has like several moments where he like does something that affects the plot. Posey, which is her name, is just around to be carried around and be like, oh, isn't he cool? Isn't the Scottish man hot for taking care of his child, his sister? It's told to us over and over again that she's, you know, smart. She just thinks differently. But yeah, again, we never see it. It's not relevant. And like, listen, like I have a lot of autistic friends. I had a lot of autistic friends growing up. I had a select mute friend growing up who only spoke like in very short sentences and very quietly. Like it's just like, this was such a surface level representation, and it would be worse if the rest of the characters were more like they had more depth to them. So it's, I guess like it's just she doesn't know how to write a good character, but like, I don't know.
I mean, that's partly the problem is she doesn't know how to write a good character. It reminds me of something Maria said at one point, that like often our viewpoint into autistic characters is from the outside. What are their impact upon our life, and it's not what is the experience like for them. And like I understand that the author wasn't going to add her viewpoint in a book that's mostly about like two people making kissy faces, but maybe don't include it then. Maybe don't. Maybe if you're not actually caring about, again, if you're not going to do this topic more work than just the surface level, maybe don't include it.
The thing is, I think that she thought she was giving it like, you know, a reasonable page type, because a lot of time is spent on it. A lot of time is spent on, oh, these characters are all a little weird, you guys, and they don't all get along. Honestly, the romance was pretty small in this, and like
too much. It was already too much.
None of it was good.
I think because, you know, we get told that Theo got left, you know, his family doesn't really care about him that much because he's, you know, it's difficult to deal with magic for your parents. And they don't want to deal with the hassle. And so you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a metaphor. This is coded neuroatypical behavior. But like, that coding never really goes anywhere. It's also kind of implied that Luke also was a little autistic.
Yeah, at one point they go to the arcade and he like talks about like how he was overstimulated by all the arcade sounds, and like he's like, you know, in a lot of ways I'm very similar to Posey. It's just manifests differently. And I'm like, I think everyone in this house is on the spectrum a little bit, quite frankly. But like, and I don't mean like, I mean that like, not in a bad, I said it like it was a joke, but like everyone is like, you know, a guy walking around in a night suit who, you know, never leaves his Ren Fair job. Like, it's all these people, it's a quirky found family, you know?
A person from the Ren Fair, that's all you needed to say. Yeah, but again, it's like we're in Luke's point of view. That should be more than just a thing he mentions at some time. That actually should be pervasive to his experience of the world, even if he's pretty low on the spectrum. But yes, so his cute sister, Football, he like doesn't know, he has to keep her around, but nobody likes her, so it's tough on him. Her parents don't want to accept her back, really. So his professor's like, yeah, go take a
go to my vacation house. Shoo.
And I will say this Professor Varity, she is like the only character in this I actually thought was successfully funny. Maybe it's because the audio voice actress does like a very good like chompy voice to her, but like some of it's actually funny with how she's kind of ignoring the other professor.
I kind of like the idea of this, like she wears riding boots even though she doesn't have a horse. She puts like a big old cigar in her mouth and doesn't smoke it. She just has sort of like an air of like a very specific vibe that I found kind of entertaining. But she's barely on screen, so.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of a stock character, but it's a fun stock character, but she's barely there. Like, a lot of the other stock characters aren't fun or funny, but the other thing is, her humor is different than everybody else's humor, and that's one of the reasons she's actually kind of pops off the page, because she doesn't just say the most whimsical thing. She says acerbic short things and has a specific kind of routine with the other professor there, where she's just kind of ignoring him while saying certain things. And like that specificity actually makes her interesting in a way that none of the other characters do, because none of them are specific.
Yeah, she's like the one character who won't get like the next funny line available, pretty much. And it's probably just because she's not on page. I guarantee you if she's on page more, she would have turned into one of those quirky people eventually. But
No,
thankfully, she was only there a few times, so she never got the like flattening.
You can see it in someone like Clem, where Clem like ends up having the same humor as everybody else, but at times when she feels like a stodgy old woman who's kind of petty when she's kind of petty and plaintive, I found her really funny because
me too. And there's one moment where like she's talking about her human form, where she's like, "I used to look great in corsets. I'm a rotund but like beautiful, pouty lips," and like the way she describes herself is like, there were a few fun moments with Clem as like just sort of a little full of herself, like sharp teeth, a little impulsive kind of, but like she was fun sometimes.
And that's the thing, is when she was not just the next joke on the list, she pops as a character and she's more interesting. And I think that really is why these other characters are so annoying, is because they do just all kind of say the same dialogue. But they go, he goes to that area and there's no summer house there, but the inn has this thing where like if people are in trouble, it'll lead people to it.
And only good people, though, you guys. It doesn't want any of those bad people coming to the inn. You have to be a good guy, and you have to need something. So what happens
Never
is...
mind, that could have been a good metaphor for like racism or something, but go ahead.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like, who's deciding these people have goodness in their heart? You know what I mean?
Well, it is our girl's magic, apparently, so... and we all know she's the best girl in the world, so she has the best read on everyone's intentions, so...
Oh, no. Okay. Good point. Yeah. So she shows up. He almost runs over the chicken. It ends up that he and Sarah knew each other back when they were kids, because like she hid under his desk one time.
He was the librarian when she was going to the Hogwarts school, essentially, when she was younger. And she had a big old crush on him back in the day. And of course, the minute she sees him, she's like, "Oh, he's even more handsome now. His icy blue eyes, his hair, his jaw." And I'm like, all right, okay, here we go.
Okay, so here's the thing about the romance. First of all, they're not funny together. The author thinks they have banter, and they don't. The fury in your eyes.
There is no chemistry between them. I don't get it.
They're every bantery couple that there is, and their entire romance will just be cliches, and not just cliches and tropes, but like specific words and language taken from it's very chat GPT of like, list all of the romantic tropes ever used. Okay, now arrange them in a chronological sense to create a romance. Like, that is really what it feels. There is no part of their dynamic which feels natural or organic. It always feels like, okay, next trope in the list. And the thing is, again, it's like if you're already bought into these characters and you're just looking for like a horny, cozy time, I kind of get it. But this is a book and it's not fan fiction. You kind of need to sell me on your characters a little bit.
If you go to jokes 2 on the quote list, you'll see a little banter example, a very funny banter between the two of them. "So you're from the guild then?" Sarah bit the words out. "Albert couldn't be bothered to come himself?" "Albert?" His eyebrows twitched together. "Albert Gray? Didn't he send you?" "As I try to have as little to do with the great and powerful wizard as possible," the stranger replied in a clipped, icy voice, apparently unimpressed with both her tone and question. "I can't imagine why he'd send me anywhere." "The wizard?" Sarah was momentarily distracted. "Of Oz? Who else?" Sarah collapsed into helpless laughter. You referenced the Wizard of Oz.
So much worse.
You referenced the Wizard of Oz. And what's fun? Please, I want someone to explain to me what's funny about this. What's funny?
Sorry, I'm literally rereading it, trying to figure out why this is supposed to be funny. Okay, first of all, this is borderline stupid, because this should be the end of the thing he says. We've already forgotten the great and powerful part by the time that she talks. So it seems like she's just bringing it up out of no reason. So it's incompetent in that regard. There's no reason that the great and powerful wizard is such a like common saying that's immediately what she would think of. Like, that was a stretch. And then the fact that she collapses in laughter, I don't understand why that's funny. God, she really is bad at writing.
It's so incompetently written. Like, it's bad even without her collapsing into laughter. But the thing is, the author really wants to make like the Wizard of Oz sort of like a theme throughout this book, because she keeps kind of bringing it up. And it's later mentioned that Luke, our main love interest, people used to call him the Tin Man, you guys, because he doesn't have a heart. But if you've read The Wizard of Oz, or you will know that actually, he has the biggest heart of all, you guys. It's kind of like symbolism.
That's the level of metaphor and intelligence on display in this book. Is they literally have this conversation with each other. And midway through the book, it's not even something like they do at the end where she's like, well, you forgot all along.
Like they add like symbolism like throughout the book and forget to weave it back in sometimes at the beginning too. It's real bad. I'll talk to it when I get there about the Phoenix stuff because that one upset me, but we're not there yet.
That is such a stretch. That is a high school person, a high school student, the 5 minutes before class remembering that they need to do the themes of a book. Like
we'll talk about
that's
it,
what that is.
It's so clumsily done. It's so clumsy.
The ocean metaphor, the heart, or that's exactly what it is.
Okay, we should get through some of the plots.
Let's keep rolling. Okay, so he goes there, and guess what? It's the perfect place to stay because they don't care if Posey is outwardly going to do magic or not. They'll handle it. Mm-hmm. And it's like they're all outcasts there. None of them fit. So it's a great place for them. And he can find a supportive place for his sister to be.
And of course, because he's icy, he's like, I'm going to leave soon, probably. But he doesn't. He stays.
It's also just, there's no real effort made to like really act. Like you keep getting told he's grumpy and he's not really ever on page grumpy. That's another way that like, this is not a Diana Wynne Jones book because when her characters are grumpy, like they're kind of dickish on page to begin with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's real spikes and edges to them. Like, the sibling relationships in Dark Lord of Dirkholm, like they're kind of mean to each other at the beginning of the book. And then by the end, you're like, oh yeah, that's how siblings are. And we're back together. And
it really is just like Jamie from Irregular Witches, who has told us over and over again how grumpy he is, but he laughs at every joke. He's full of love at every moment. And this one, it's always like, everyone's always telling me you have the iciest stare and I'm a huge bitch. And I'm like, no, he's always nice to his sister. He's a big sweetheart at every moment. He laughs at everyone's jokes. It's the same shit. She can't write grumpy characters. She should stop trying. Like, just...
She can't decide either because at times Sarah is supposed to be grumpy, but then she always says like winsome, like... girl shit, you know, like there's that character where it's like, aha, I'm a little winsome with the love interest, and it's so quirky. She's so quirky.
Yeah, he calls her a quarrelsome gargoyle a couple of times, and she's like, oh, that's very funny, and I'm like, is it? Okay.
Eventually, through some bullshit, they get him to translate the letter.
It's discovered, that he is he works with Varity, and she's like, oh, maybe you can translate this, and he's like, yeah, absolutely, I can. And she's like, awesome, I'm gonna be able to do this spell, I'm gonna get my magic back, it's gonna be fantastic. However, it's an old spell, and it's all very metaphorically written, and what she needs, 3 ingredients. She needs a thorny heart, she needs a strand of a sunset, and she needs a phoenix feather. And she's like, where am I going to get those? And she immediately like runs outside and looks for a crow feather and like puts it in her little pot. And she's like, this is going to work because it's a feather. And it doesn't work, guys. Surprise. And Luke is like I said, it's kind of metaphorical. It has to be kind of personal to you. And she's like, I know, I need a red feather because it's more colored like fire. And I'm like, girl, you're not smart at all. Like, he just said it's metaphorical. It has to be personal. You think a red feather is going to change this?
It's going to help you?
Oh my God. Like, it's just so irritating how dumb she is.
The structure of the novel going forward is like, this is in the background of like, oh, she needs to find the right things to put in the pot to regain her magic. Okay, that's a good structure and good stakes, even if it really hasn't been quite set up enough why she wants her magic back.
Mm-hmm.
But okay.
At the very least, there's something sort of like churning in the background.
Yeah. Right? And then a lot of the book is like slice of life bullshit. This is what's happening in the world. And like the two don't quite play as nice as I think the author wants them to. A book series that does this very well is Harry Potter. Harry Potter always has something going on in the background. Well, there's also moments in the like, this is what's going on in school at the times. I know, guys, we don't talk about the author.
We don't like J.K. Rowling. She sucks, but unfortunately, it's a well-structured mystery, and there's
that part of it she's always really masterful at is creating this background tension and then the foreground events. This book doesn't quite do that. It's more like they keep doing normal life and then she'll remember, oh, I should be working on this, and something will happen with it. But even then, not always. Like, it takes them a really long time to actually try and find the first one. So it doesn't quite provide as much structure as you would think.
Like, I was kind of thinking like a thorny heart was going to be way more metaphorical than it actually was. I thought that like they're going to have to fall in love and melt each other's thorny hearts or something. No, it turns out that it's just, she's like, I wonder if there's a thorny plant in the garden. Hey, artichokes are thorny and artichokes have hearts, you guys. So she gets an artichoke and she plops it in there and boom, first one finished. Yeehaw, guys.
Yeah, I also thought it was going to be one of these like, okay, she's got to make them through her actions and it's all metaphorical. But no, it really is just wordplay. Like, that's the thing, is the answer to all these is wordplay. It's not like actually. And the other thing is it's bullshit right from the beginning, because he tells her like, you just have to come up with the correct metaphor and it'll work. Like, and that kind of ruins it a little bit if it's literally just like, come up with the right thing and that'll.
And it's clear that like there's multiple answers to each of these too. You find out like if one metaphor, like become like more than one metaphor can work for each ingredient apparently. Because they fail at one that we're pretty sure was going to work, and then we find a different one, guys. Don't worry.
It'd be more interesting if like some of the metaphors only worked in like, I was going to say Indian, but Indian isn't a language, in like Hindu or something like that, and then that would have been interesting. Like it's like, oh, if I translate this over, the heart is this and this in this language, and that would have been kind of cool and reclaiming of culture.
Yeah, it's that culture. That part of her culture isn't really important to her character at all, though.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's funny. I remember when the Deadly Education books came out, there was a controversy because the main character in that is half Indian, I believe. And there was a bunch of people who are like, or not a bunch of people, some people complained about how the character is Indian, but she doesn't feel Indian, and she's kind of distanced from her culture, which canonically in the book makes sense. They're all shuffled off to a murder college really young. I feel like this is like that. Like, she feels very, like if this was written by a white lady, people would be like, she really doesn't feel Indian in terms of cultural markers or even knowing. And in this case, she should. She lived and grew up with an aunt who's from India. She is growing up in England as an Indian woman, like in society and stuff. So like, she really should have a little bit more cultural background than she does.
The author is not interested in exploring it, though. It's not part of it. At this point, I should say this is a little foreshadowing for you guys. I don't know how we discover this, but we learn that there is, in fact, a spell for stealing someone else's magic. But the cost of stealing that magic is you lose your own magic. And this is randomly thrown in there. And Sarah's like, well, it's a good thing that there's a cost. Otherwise, Albert would have done this to everyone by now. And then we just sort of file that away for information. Might come up later. Who knows?
I wonder if that's going to come up once later, guys. The other thing we learn is that Clem lost her magic because she was trying to curse Albert, and it backfired on her. And so that's why she's on the lam, which I think it's very funny, but I don't really think anything is done with it as much as it
not really interesting. Later. Yeah,
that's one of these things where it's not like, oh, Albert was like, I don't know, creating a hostile work environment or something. Like, it's just like, okay,
he was. But
yeah. They what does happen next?
Theo has a bad day at school because they were making family trees, and he's like, my parents don't like me, and then Sarah comforts him, and it's all very sweet. And then the gun goes off, guys. Posey starts floating in the garden, and everyone's like, oh god, Posey's floating in the garden. What's that? Because only some of the people at the inn know that magic exists. But don't worry, guys. Immediately it is explained, oh, it's magic. And everyone's like, oh, okay, there's magic. And there's no issue or conflict whatsoever. Everyone is like, cool.
Awesome. We knew this whole time.
Some of them did, or some of them
some of them are like.
And Nick, the night guy, is like, who am I to question my lady's house? And like,
he's not one of the funny, quirky characters. And there's only like
he could be cut out of the book entirely, and almost nothing would change. Like
you don't lose anything. It literally feels like the author just wanted to be, I need a character to praise my author insert constantly. Okay, I have this character now. Like, because he adores Sarah, but like platonically, and it's like, I don't understand why you're here. I just don't. And thematically, I don't understand why you're here. This is the other thing is that, like, in Diana Wynne Jones books, the supporting cast, not only do they pop and are funny, they have like their own little arcs sometimes, and thematically they tend to mean something. And sometimes they're like some of the best characters.
To give Nick an arc, like with his dad, who is a really awful dude, but it never completes to anything. He just comes back to the end and everything's fine. He returns to his found family. There's nothing interesting there. Like,
it's just the same metaphor. It's just the same, like,
veneer of trauma.
Oh, we also find out Matilda, the black lady, is a lesbian.
This is where we find that. It's a random line. She's just like, and Matilda, who had been hopelessly in love with Jasmine for years, and I'm just like, excuse me? Why didn't we are 60% through the book at this point, and I'm like, was anyone gonna say this? Were we gonna talk about this? No, I feel like she thought about it at this point. It was like, we need more lesbians. Let's
She's like, oh, lesbians of color. Perfect. This will be great. Yes, she's in love with Jasmine. Jasmine apparently has no idea because Matilda's so beautiful and she's always been made to feel ugly. Matilda will also keep talking about how, like, this is one of the few places she's able to feel herself and live out loud. And you're like, okay, that's the lesbian theme we're going with here. And also, I think because she's just like a bitch. And so nobody else can put up with her.
A whole bunch of bullshit happens. Like, so, like, I think Matilda is like, Luke, you should go to the pub with Nicholas because he doesn't have a lot of friends. And he's like, okay. So they go to the pub, and then also Sarah is there with the gay couple who lives at the farm next door. And they have sort of a moment outside. And I think this is where we get our, like, sort of our little magical, like, a fever touch moment, Mr. Darcy.
Oh, the Mr. Darcy one. Let me see. Her face grew hot. The moment I arrived at the guild, there were all these people telling me how special and extraordinary I was. The same sort of people who tell Albert the same thing. And I mean, considering what you said the day you came here. Ellipses. No, she couldn't do it. She couldn't bring herself to ask. Carefully, Luke broke the death grip her fingers had on the edge of the desk. Heat blazed through her skin at every single place his hands touched hers. And, startled, she yanked her hand back to her chest. Dropping his own arm back to the desk, fingers flexing, Luke said, "You want to know what the rest of us really thought of you." So, okay, it's the reason I call it fever touch is because what should happen is that you, as the reader, should be like, oh my God, he touched her, how intimate. Because that's what you, again, I've said this before, the author should be kind of trailing where the characters are by how much where you want them to be. That you shouldn't be too ahead, otherwise you feel like they're insisting and kind of just shoving it in your face. And so there should be a moment where you feel emotionally fluttery because they're touching. You can't just synthetically tell you that that's how the characters felt. For example, at the end of Uprooted, there's a part where the main character takes the love interest's hand and pulls him with her to a place, and like that's such a touching moment, and it's a moment where you're just like, oh, they're so cute together, but there's no description of it being fever touch. This is the same thing as using like ly words, adjectives, I think, like, oh, he hit her softly, and it's like that doesn't match. You need to actually put the work in so that the word itself, like, it's overly insisting upon itself, and that's fever touch, and that is what most books depend on for the romantic chemistry.
And not only do we get the heat bloomed everywhere he touched her, we also get the Pride and Prejudice Mr. Darcy hand flex after he like lets go. So just in case we weren't certain he was horny, now we know. And like, this isn't a movie. Like, you can't. You're telling now. You're not showing. You're telling me the hand flex. We all know it. We all know the Mr. Darcy hand flex.
We all know exactly what this is. This isn't clever. His parents show up and want to take they don't want to take Posey back. They're just there to talk. And she's like, the inn is telling me not to let them come in because they're not good people. And he's like, okay, but you kind of got to. And she's like, okay, fine. So they do that. And then later they have a conversation about how he's like, your strength is what made me stand up for them because you're part of the inn and they only would have come in if you had been strong enough to see them. So I was trying. Okay, so there's just a lot of bullshit like that throughout the book of them like bonding and finding strength in each other. And they both do the thing where they're like, we're terrible. And the other person's like, no, you're not. You're the best. I'm having trouble because I can't really remember much of the plot.
Yeah. I've got my like plot notes because I knew I was gonna have trouble. Okay, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, so there's a moment where like it's late at night and Sarah goes downstairs, and as I mentioned before, sometimes the house shows her ghosts of her childhood. And there was one moment when she was really angry as a kid where she kicked the door really hard and there's like a little dent in it and she broke some of her toes. And usually the house only shows her moments of her childhood that are, kind of, neutral good at most. But now she feels like the house is betraying me. It's showing me this really sad moment. And then like Luke walks in right as Sarah's little ghost hallucination is kicking the door and like crying on the ground. And he kind of sits down next to her ghost and doesn't say anything and is just sort of there. And she's like, oh, that's really touching. That's real sweet. And like, I guess kind of.
Okay, no. Okay, those screens they have that will play your photo roll, like family backgrounds and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the equivalent of you seeing a sad picture on there and you going and sitting next to it until the picture has passed. This doesn't fucking mean, why would you go and sit next to it? This makes no sense. It's not real. And because afterwards she's all like, that's all that person needed was somebody to be there for them. And you were there for her. And he's like, but she was alone. So that's why I did it. And it's like, again, it doesn't make any sense.
It's almost something like I can feel her reaching for something interesting. And there's a certain, there's like a lot of lines sort of about how all these younger versions of her is like kind of abandoned. She almost feels more abandoned by her younger self than other people in her life. And I don't quite put the pieces together on that.
So it doesn't come together. The thing about it is it should be metaphorized. Yeah, I'll say metaphorized. I'm not brave. Metaphorized through the magic in some way, the idea that we are different people at different points in our lives and we can grieve and dislike those other people, which is a very real thing. Your brain works very hard to convince you are the same person all the time, but you're really not. You change your behavior based off of your, like if somebody in the mall came up and stuck their fingers in your mouth, you would get mad. That would be bad. If the dentist does it, you're like, okay, that's normal. It doesn't even necessarily feel weird. It's just like, that's normal. Like you're a different person in different places and emotionally you are and your beliefs and all of those things as well. So this should be something where like the house is showing her versions of herself in the past. But it doesn't actually do that because she'll talk about how like the version of her that had more promise, she feels betrayed by. And the metaphor never quite comes together of like, what does this mean for us not in the book about identity and how we view identity? What is the message? The message she eventually comes to is that her younger selves didn't abandon her, that they're still there with her and that's important. But it's like
thematically, it just really doesn't weave together. Like I can feel her reaching for something and like she's almost got her fingers on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a couple of times I was like, oh, that's like, she'll say something that was like almost poignant, but then it just moves on and it never really comes back again in a meaningful way. So I'm just like, she does this with so many different themes throughout this. She's like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. And then they just sort of float off and you're like, all right, there it goes.
And they're not part of a cohesive argument. Again, the using the magic as a metaphor for neuroatypicality. That doesn't tie into this idea of different selves or of like different points in your life being a different person. It's not even, again, this would have been much more poignant if it had been like when she was young. Again, she didn't want the woman brown domestically where she wanted the glamorous white male coded magic. And now
I really wish she'd explored that theme. Like that would have been so much more interesting, but,
But she doesn't. And so like that stuff is in the book. We'll talk about it a lot, but it never quite makes sense what she means by she didn't like those earlier versions of herself. I'm like, I don't know. It just doesn't ring true and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And this is around the time of the book where all of a sudden, Sarah is described as having prickly wings when she gets like a little irritated. There's a lot of like feathers talk all of a sudden. When I'm like, oh, that's weird. When did she start like having prickly feathers? And interesting. We're like what, like 65% of the way through, but now prickly feathers are come up like at least 3 times after this. And I'm like, interesting. I wonder where this is leading. At one point, Luke finds her list of potential ingredients for the spell to regain her magic. And he sees a crossed off one and it's called like essence of sunlight or sunshine or something. And he's like, why did you cross this off? This could work. And she's like, there's no way for me to get it. I don't think so. It probably wouldn't. You said it has to be important to me, right? And he's like, no, this is what you used, right? When we're trying to gauge how powerful a witch is. You touch the essence of sunlight. And most witches, their finger is usually the only thing that glows. Albert would say, even the best witches who are, British and rich, maybe their arm will glow. So when she was a kid and sitting down to do this thing, he's like, don't get too excited. You might get a fingernail if you're lucky. And she touches it and her whole body glows. And he's like, that's important to you. We could get that and use it. She's like, how the hell are we going to get that? That's in Mr. Bertram Mogg's office or something. And then Clemmy is like, you know what time it is? It's December. That means it's almost time for the masquerade ball at his mansion, everybody.
They're like, oh, is this the time for the trope of fake dating? And it is.
Heist time?
So they go to the party and it's like, oh, she has a mask, so no one's going to recognize her despite having spent about extra time with these people. And she's like, oh my God. Scottish sexy man is so hot.
He's wearing black and it makes his eyes look even bluer, and she's wearing a sexy green corseted dress.
Does this do it for anyone? I hate it so much. I hate so much how paint by numbers this is. Like, is anyone really like, oh, this is my thing?
If there was any chemistry between them, maybe, but there's not. They're in the party for a minute. Matilda's there for some reason. I forget why.
She's wacky.
Because wacky, and so Clemmy is going to distract Albert while they sneak into what's-his-face's office. Oh, and there's like this very funny line about how Matilda calls Bertram Mogg Biggly Bobs or something, and everyone laughs about it for a really long time, and it keeps coming up about how we're at Bibbly Bob's mansion, everyone, and I'm like, this isn't funny. I'm so tired.
Here's the thing with, again, this book is the idea of somebody who's not funny, thinks funny people are. Like, it's not funny that she mispronounces it. It's not charming. Like, you should do like a little bit of audience research to see if anyone found this funny before including it in your book. You know what I mean? Like, comedy shows have writers. Like, maybe do that.
But she's a writer, hypothetically, so
maybe punch up the script a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we fix this? So, okay, so they go, they sneak off, and then they make out because they're both super hot.
Oh, we gotta read the quote.
Oh, do we?
I think we do. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. We missed horny finger licking. That's so sad. That's okay.
Oh my God, I fucking hated that so much. That was just like, why did they just invoke the trope? It's so fucking stupid. No, we need to find that.
It's below this, I think.
Horny finger licking. Absently licking, you can find the other one. Licking sticky fruit juice off her thumb, she looked up to see Luke watching her, eyes dark, a muscle ticking in his jaw. Her heart fluttered wildly, like a bird in a cage, and she couldn't resist licking her thumb again. Luke's voice was like gravel. I'm pretty sure you got it all. You don't look at me like that very often. I'm making the most of it. That made him laugh. God, you're a menace. This is just every... This is just every... Like, if you put the Mona Lisa here, it would be a less well-known moment. You know what I mean? Like this is just the most known trope and thing to do. There's no unexpectedness to it. There's no specificity to it. They weren't. This even
just
really
happened in a Fate Fortune Fire too, with the sexy oatmeal. Like it just happened.
Also, has anyone ever been turned on that way? I'm sorry. Maybe I'm revealing myself as being horribly obtuse, but I've never been turned on by somebody going. It's so paint by number, and that's the thing is there's no real ring of truth to it. That's what I mean. Also, when I say they just strung together a bunch of like,
the
romance tropes.
The one I'm looking for is "I'm not fucking you in Bibbly Bog Library."
I'm not fucking you in Bibbly Bog Library. She's forgotten the hottest part of a fire burns blue. Okay. She smiled at him. Is that what it takes to beguile the stoic, icy historian? A corset? It helps. He smiled back. That's not the real answer, though. It's you. You're what it takes. Sarah leans up on her toes, slid one hand up the back of his neck and tugged his mouth to hers. She came alive. The kiss was hungry and furious. Their legs tangled and his thumb stroked the edge of her hip. He tasted like lemonade and white rum in the sky. Stars burst against the dark of her closed eyelids. That's a double entendre because her magic is also stars in a night sky. When he broke the kiss, Sarah made a plaintive, protesting sound. He dropped his forehead against hers. That's plaintive. Dropped his forehead against hers, breathing hard. She bit lightly down on his lower lip. He groaned and kissed her again. Just so you know, Luke said, his voice low and rough. I'm not fucking you against the wall of the Bibbly Bog Library. She laughed. There you go, being all sensible. If you move about half an inch to the left, you'll see just how not sensible I am right now. Don't tell me that, Sarah complained, consumed by regret. This is hard enough already. Luke dropped his head, shoulders shaking with laughter. Not the best choice of words. This is what we're talking about. Okay, I'm at my hilarity aside. This is just not funny.
It's not funny.
This is not the height of humor. This is not, there's nothing specific about this. We're making hard-on jokes now. Like, what are, like...
This is almost like pound for pound, like the exact same scene of Mika and Jamie making out in the forest in Irregular Witches, where he's like, I'm not gonna fuck you in the forest. And she's like...
Oh, you're right!
It's almost the exact same scene. And like, girl, you're plagiarizing yourself. Come on. And remember the when she's like when Mika in Regular Witches is high on magic and she touches his jaw and she's like, wow, it's so hard. And he's like, it's not the only thing. It's just it's all the same. It's all the same.
We're just doing it again. You know, I think the reason I wasn't harder on this book, and I'm being pretty hard on it, is that I didn't have to read it. I just listened to it because this is actually worse, and it's also taking longer than just listening to it, where it goes by pretty fast.
Now you understand why I was so just exhausted. I was like, oh, it's not even funny bad anymore. It's just boring and stupid and like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anyway, they find it. They find their strand of sunshine, and they're like, oh, cool, we got it. And then, surprise, guys, Albert busts in, and he's like, ha ha ha, yoink, you can't have that. And he smashes it. And he's gonna like punish them, but then Francesca comes in and she's like, I'll handle their punishment as the chancellor. And she's like, you guys can go. And Albert's like, but you know, she's the chancellor. So they get out of there with no strand of sunlight. And it's so sad. They got nothing. They go back to the inn. God, what happens next? Is this when Posey is like drawing a picture and is like, sunset. And everyone's like...
She talks in one word.
Yeah, what are you talking about? And she like holds up a picture of like a sunset, and someone's like, why does the sunset have a tail? And then they're like, oh, a strand of sunset. Then they pluck a little red strand off of Clemmy the fox's tail, and they put it in, and surprise, guys, Clemmy's tail is the strand of sunset. 2 out of 3 ingredients found.
It really is just a wordplay hunt. Like, it's not, none of them cost anything. None of them really mean anything. None of them are moments of like her realizing something about herself. Like, that's how this should play out, is these should be moments where she realizes like, oh, you know, Jasmine was was the sun of my day this whole time, or something. Like, you know, like it should be this thing where she can only see the thing she needs once she has grown to it. That's how this should work. That's how you tie it into a character.
There's nothing about Clemmy that has anything to do with the sunset. Clemmy's just kind of a bitch. I thought really I thought was gonna happen was like after Luke and Sarah bang for the first time, I thought like the sun was gonna be setting and hit his hair, and she's like, a strand of sunset. And she'd pluck it from his head and put it in there. That was my guess.
It's not a bad idea. Again, it's just like it's a scavenger hunt of metaphor wordplay. Okay, what else happens? Matilda and Jasmine get together because Matilda saw her life flash before her eyes. And Jasmine's like, but you're so pretty. And Matilda's like, I'm a lesbian. And they get together.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet. And then we find Nicholas like outside getting in a car, and for the first time he's not dressed in his night gear, his you know, night with a K. And Sarah's like, hey man, where are you going? He's like, I gotta go see my dad for some reason. And we learn at this point that his dad is extremely abusive or something. And Sarah's like, are you sure you don't have to do that? And he's like, I do have to do this. And she's like, well, here, take my swan necklace for good luck. And she hands it to him, and he's like, oh, is it a swan? I always thought it was a firebird. And then Sarah's like, a firebird? Like a phoenix? And she's already handed it to him. And he leaves, and she's like, oh my God, that's the last thing. I'm the phoenix after all.
I kept going after all the times I was killed. Like a little bit of me was killed, but I kept going. It's a metaphor, guys. It's supposed to wrap up my character growth. But the thing is, my character growth was never really established as being a problem because I was fine at the beginning of the book.
You just start making feather comparisons about halfway through, and that's it. That's really it.
We need to specify again that like she's doing fine at the beginning of the book. This is not a thing where like she really has had to go through these traumatic things. It doesn't feel traumatic. It just feels like, okay, she's fine now. She's got regrets in the way that a normal person has regrets. But it's not like, the other thing is, it's not like she is like hated being an innkeeper. Like that would actually be interesting if she was not happy where she was now and she kind of viewed it as like working at like a dead end job.
If her arc was learning that this was her found family and she doesn't actually need to be, back with the guild and like doing this, and that she's happy here, that would make so much more sense. And the ending would make so much more sense too. But we'll get there. It's just she loves the inn. She's always loved the inn. And she's had some bad times, and everyone has bad times when they're.
And she gets a lot of emotional fulfillment from being at the inn and taking it. Like it's a problem because it denies any real stakes to her arc. It just flattens the whole thing. Anyway, Jamie had been like, for my sister's sake, we got to move to London where there's like someone who deals with autistic children
and like can tutor her, and she'd been being tutored by Matilda at the inn up until this point, but he's like, no, we gotta leave because like we need some tension here. So
this is the third act breakup. And she's like neither of us want to do long distance for a little bit. So we have to break up.
It's so nothing.
It really is like, she's like, I know you wouldn't be able to do it. Like more than if we had to drive 2 hours to see each other. He's like, no, I couldn't do it. I like you too much. It's just the dumbest thing.
She's trying so hard to like put a real conflict in, and it's just absolutely nothing.
Later, he's going to have an epiphany that he always has one foot out the door. You always have one foot out the door. And it's like, did he, or was he actually doing pretty fine? And then you came up with a dumb conflict to split them up. She gets her magic back after they have sex.
Yeah. Or no, they don't have sex yet until he comes back for real. So she gets her magic back while and Luke leaves with his sister. And when she gets her magic back, she starts fixing up the inn like crazy. She goes like a wild shit ton of magic. And then Franny reaches out to her, or not Franny, Francesca reaches out to her. And she's like, hey, now that you have your magic back, we need some help. Turns out my dad has this big old contract that's controlling everyone and we can't get rid of him. All of us want him out. So can you come here and break the contract? None of us are strong enough. And she's like, okay. So she's going to go back and break the contract. Did they have sex before this?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay.
We collapse some events because it's not important.
Yeah.
Clemmy also is now no longer a fox. She's a woman. They go there. They're like, okay, can you break this? And she's like, I can, but you guys need to do better. And they're like,
you
what?
need to end
like,
racism in the guild.
It's exactly that. She's like, what about DEI? They're like, what? And she's like, it can't just be the same people on the board all the time or I'm not going to help you. And they're like, okay, I guess we could do better.
Except for the couple of racist people who are like, no, we want to be racist forever. And then she's
we want to hang on. You got to give back your cultural items. And it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, she's like, you have to return the cultural items to their rightful countries also. I'm like, okay, okay.
It's cool you read about that article in National Geographic once about that.
This is the only time it comes up, and it's just like kind of sprinkled in there. I'm like, all right.
I mean, again, the thing about this is this kind of entrenched systems of privilege in a magical society is much better explored in the Deadly Education books. Because Naomi Novik actually understands how cultures and systems work, and there's like the kind of invisible rules that they write and the ways that those interact, and like how it is difficult to do change long term. And this book doesn't. This book is just like, well, what if one time she stood up to some racist people and told them to stop, and they were like, okay, it'll take a little bit, but we will.
But we will do our best. And she's like, that's all I can ask. And she goes home to her found family.
Well, no, she finds out that Clemmy actually betrayed her in the library.
You're right. Yeah, so back when Clemmy was supposed to be distracting Albert so they could get the sunshine thing, turns out Albert found Clemmy and was like, hey, let me know what's going on and I'll reverse your curse. And surprise, guys, Albert didn't reverse the curse and Clemmy sold them out. So Sarah looks at, like, Clemmy, who is a human woman now, and she's like, you're not coming back with us. See ya.
And they go back, and then they find out that, oh, Albert is here, and he's pissed. And she's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to mess with your friends and you're not going to be able to protect
he turns Nicholas into stone and then like she undoes it. And then they're like, the only way to solve this is to have a witch duel. So they duel, they shoot some spells, and then eventually Sarah realizes, even if I win, he's not going to keep up his end of the bargain. So the only thing I can do is take his magic away. Do you guys remember earlier when I told you to tuck away that little fact about how you can steal someone's magic, but then you'll lose your own magic? Now we're going to go pull that back out now because it's going to be relevant. And she's like, I'm going to sacrifice my magic to save everyone. So she takes his magic and he's like, no! And
Disney villain style.
Yeah. And he's like, my magic, the one thing.
Fire Lord Ozai style. She's like, I take your bending from you as the Avatar.
And like, I've got a question though, because the way it was phrased was, you lose what's yours if you take what someone else's. Shouldn't she still get his magic in return?
Yes.
Like you would think that she would have, because his magic is described as lightning and hers was stars. Shouldn't she now have his lightning magic?
You would think, but I think that's too complex of a metaphor for the author. Yeah. So the author didn't want to do anything with it because there's all this stuff about how magic is like kind of alive and it's sort of how you treat it. And he treats his poorly because he's evil and racist, and she treats hers great because she's the main. And so it's like, oh no, she protected her Nakama, but she's lost her magic.
But when she closes her eyes, she still sees one little star, reminding her that her magic still loves her a little bit. And it's so sweet, even though she can't use magic anymore, guys.
Also, Clemmy came in and tried to save the day and failed.
Also, Clemmy is the new, like, chancellor, I guess, of the guild for some reason.
Because there was a joke earlier about how she thinks she's going to take over and become the new chancellor, and everyone's like, that's stupid. So she does it in the end. And, like, the thing with Clemmy's betrayal and redemption is that it just doesn't... It happens too late. It needs to happen earlier for her redemption not to just feel perfunctory, because it happened 2 scenes ago. You can't have that emotional whiplash that quickly. It should be something where, like, you know, even though she didn't like Clemmy when she got her magic, she had exiled her, but when she got her magic back, she went and found her and made her a person again. And then Clemmy had been like, oh shit, I was shitty and you're a good person here. I'm going to come try fighting for you. And it doesn't work. She gets slapped down. But she's like, that's okay, Clemmy. We still love you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that should be the arc, and that's not the arc. And this is what I mean. These are the thing is, writing a book is really fucking simple. I don't understand why people are so bad at it. They're so bad at it. It's amazing how little they know how to, like, create stakes or tension or arcs or understand how other people think. It's really disappointing, guys.
She could take this whole book and look at it and pick it apart theme by theme and rearrange some things and change like a few like character arcs, and it would make so much more sense. And it would be so much more satisfying to read. Like, there are pieces here that could fit together, but she's ignoring them. And she, like, slaps in these themes and, like character, like, symbolism things halfway through. And there's just no through line. It doesn't make sense.
Well, and I think the thing about it is there's an inattention to personality and character and an over-attention to topical themes. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't understand that, like, one of the things that makes the Diana Wynne Jones books great is that, like, they are about personal relationships. And there's that saying in writing that the more personal something is, the more universal it is. And by burrowing into these relationships between 2 people, not Albert the racist and whoever the not, you could then say something about racism. You could then say something with Clemmy about, like, privilege. Like, Clemmy is like, well, I kind of just thought, you know, as an upper class person, I should get this. It didn't matter. Like, you could do something there by burrowing into the characters first, and she doesn't. She doesn't want to treat them as people. She wants to treat them as, like, little wacky joke spouting chips on her board.
Wouldn't it have been so much more interesting if, like, Albert was still, like, a racist piece of shit, but he saw this, like, little Indian girl and was like, I can kind of use her as a token, like, and sort of like mold her and manipulate her and like use this as like a foot in for, look guys, I'm like diversity almost. And it would have made him one more sinister and like then he could have been more of a father figure to her.
How much more sinister is it if he comes to her after she did the necromancy and it's not the necromancy that upsets him, it's that she's lost her power, and he just goes, bye. Like, you're not useful.
Exactly.
I liked you as a thing for me, as an extension of me. Yes.
But an
you're not
accessory.
useful now. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that would have been much more topical.
And like, instead it's just being like, oh, thank God no one is challenging my power for the best that ever was. It would have made more sense if he just continued manipulating her. It's so boring. I mean, like, she took the most boring possible path with this.
You could even do something with, like, he felt like he could connect to her because he finally had somebody on his level. And then when she lost it, he felt like she'd lost any value for him, when it's like, no, we should have had it. You never really saw me as an equal. You saw only that part of me as valuable and connected. Like, again, like you just said, so many more things you could do if you actually treated these as characters with relationships instead of markers on a board.
Bad guy racist. So that's it. Like,
this has made me realize that, again, I think, because if you look at the studies, reading comprehension in America is really low, and you should see like how bad the question, like how simple the questions that a majority of Americans fail on are. And I think this is just what we're going to be getting from now on for those people. This is the kind of book. There's a new, it's no longer YA adult classic literature. It's YA illiterate Americans who are horny than adult. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what's happening. There's a new demographic that needs to be served.
I wish this wasn't an adult book. The horny, we didn't talk about it, but the sex scene was just like, it's kind of nothing. And like the horn, and all of the.
Again, I've read it so many times. So much of this could just be copy pasted to somewhere else. Yeah, that was this book. Before we go, I did want us to shout out our Parasocial Legends, which is a new tier on our Patreon. We forgot to do a Patreon plug for this. And if you're watching this on when you're watching this when it's uploaded, you're like, wait, no, you did. And it's because we're going to do it later and then plug it in earlier into the video. Time shenanigans. Call me the doctor. Actually, I will say the names then. So we already said them. Okay, cool, guys. Let's do the time warp again. Okay. Any last thoughts?
I think in a lot of ways this was better than the first one, but it was just more nothing than the first one. Like, all the things that I'm less passionate in my rage about it, just because it was just like, just so limp as a story.
You know what it is that by being more mediocre than bad, it shows the author's weaknesses more clearly. Almost like it's more a more stark contrast, because she can, when she does some things, you're right, you're like, oh, this is how badly she's doing this other thing. It's not just muddled.
I was looking at the Goodreads reviews, and a lot of people who liked the first one are leaving bad reviews on this one. And I think they liked, the quirky over the top characters, and like in this one they were just sort of like,
All right, thank you all for joining us. We love you all, our parasocial darlings.
Bye.